With movies, everyone has their own tolerance limits, and everyone has those little things that, when they show up in a screen, instantly make us turn away in disgust. As such, all of the following sequences had us as audiences turning away in disgust or fear or even embarrassment at what we were seeing on screen because they were just so intense. So with that in mind, I'm Josh from WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 intense recent movie scenes you couldn't watch. Number 10, Bobby Lynn gets devoured by an alligator X. Though there are indeed bloodier death scenes in Ty West's X, none are quite as disturbing as that of Bobby Lynn. After seeing the murderously horny old lady Pearl head out to the lake surrounding her property, Bobby Lynn follows her and tries to get her back inside. In response, Pearl decides to call Bobby Lynn a whore, push her in the lake, and then watch as she gets killed by an alligator. After a moment, Bobby Lynn is attacked by the animal, which plonks its jaws right down on her head and then grips her in a death roll. Like I said, it's not as outwardly disgusting as some of the other death scenes in the movie, but its prolonged nature certainly marks it out as being particularly intense and difficult to watch. As Bobby Lynn screams for her life, it's just really upsetting. She didn't deserve to go out like this. She didn't deserve to go out at all. Number 9, Johnny Knoxville is gored by a bull. Jackass Forever. Jackass Forever marked a fascinating change for the franchise, as most of the movie's legacy stars chose to opt for the more gross-out stunts and let the younger cast of characters take the more brutal hits. Well, that is, of course, except for Johnny Knoxville. In fact, Knoxville's stunt, The Magic Trick, which happens about halfway through the movie, was by far the worst of his career and gave him some exceptionally bad injuries after the fact. The stunt essentially involves Johnny Knoxville getting absolutely rammed by a raging bull and falling flat on his head, which looks bad in the movie itself, but was apparently even worse behind the scenes. Knoxville talked up this stunt prior to the movie's release and detailed the laundry list of issues that it caused him, which are quite frankly not pretty at all. The skit actually resulted in Knoxville suffering a broken rib, a broken wrist, a concussion, and a hemorrhage on his brain. So yeah, the footage of the stunt itself is bad, but knowing just how much it messed him up behind the scenes, that takes it to the next level. Number 8, Amleth mutilates his enemies, the Northmen. It's tough to pick just one moment that made audiences turn away in disgust in The Northman, but for my money it absolutely has to be Amleth's, let's say, artistic response to getting his revenge. At one point in the film, Amleth slaughters some of enemy Fjolnir's men and nails their dismembered corpses to the side of a hut, all the while arranging them to resemble a horse. On the one hand, it's kind of just a sick joke on Amleth's part, but on the other, it's a real act of psychological warfare against his enemy, because who wouldn't just freak the hell out after seeing this on the side of one of your huts? If I went outside my flat and looked up to the window and saw this on the outside of my window, I would probably just give up and never leave the house and lock myself in the bathroom. It would be really bad, is what I'm trying to say. Though the camera admittedly doesn't linger on this scene for that long, it is still gross in the few snaps of it that we do get, and it's just kind of crazy that the so-called hero of this story is able to do something so brutal. Number 7, The Exploding Spleen Ambulance. Michael Bay's Ambulance is an incredibly over-the-top, absolutely frenetic action movie from beginning to end, but it also has one particularly gross-out moment that nobody sees coming. Well, except you, because you're now watching this video and then you might watch the movie afterwards, but trust me, you'll thank me for not ruining your tea. When bank robber brothers Danny and Will hastily hijack an ambulance, they're left saddled with unwanted company, that being an EMT in the back called Cam, who is trying to save the life of a cop called Zach, who was gravely wounded during a heist. So Cam decides to be the hero and perform surgery on Zach in a moving vehicle whilst being shot at by the cops. Yeah, it's pretty badass behavior. What follows is an absolute riot of a sequence in which Cam tries to follow a doctor's orders over FaceTime amid the chaos transpiring, only for the iPad battery to die, leaving her to complete the task herself. And then comes the big shocking moment where Zach's spleen suddenly ruptures, sending blood flying over the place like this is a scene from Alien or something. It's great stuff. Number 6, a mother suffocates her son, Crimes of the Future. Though David Cronenberg's Crimes of the Future is surprisingly restrained considering it's from the master of body horror himself, it does still feature plenty of gross out moments because, like I said, it's from the master of body horror. There's of course going to be some weird stuff in there. Crimes takes place in a dystopian future where human beings have evolved to develop a number of, let's say, odd traits. Our first example of this comes by way of an 8-year-old kid called Brecken who has a taste for plastic. And by that I mean he has it for breakfast, lunch and dinner and can even digest it. Now, despite that being, in my opinion, an excellent trait, his mother doesn't seem to think so and bans him from doing this outright, which becomes a problem later on when the kid eats a plastic bin. In retaliation, once Brecken is asleep, his mother grabs a pillow and smothers him to death, with Cronenberg lingering on the moment as the poor boy squirms and struggles for his life. The mother then calls in the father of the boy and tells him that he can pick up the creature that she calls her son. She then just leaves the house for good, and quite frankly, I can't see her winning any Parent of the Year awards anytime soon. To be fair, I don't think they have those at Cannes Film Festival anyway. Number 5, dry humping on the dance floor, Death on the Nile. With its PG-13 audience rating, Death of the Nile doesn't really offer up that much objectionable content when it comes to sex or violence. It does, nevertheless, though, feature one incredibly racy sequence of people dry humping on the dance floor to open the movie. And while that might not sound so bad, in practice, in the movie itself, you won't want to watch this with your parents. In an establishing scene set in a London club, we focus on Jacqueline de Belfort on the dance floor with her fiancé Simon Doyle, where the two are grinding on each other with such vigor that it's actually surprising that there's any material on their clothes left. It's like surely they're gonna combust at some point with that friction. Now again, it's not that explicit, but the scene goes on for almost 2 minutes, with the couple performing their dance and switching positions just to make things more uncomfortable as they shake it up. Thankfully, director Kenneth Branagh eventually decides to cut away, but come on, if you're talking about cutting scenes, just trim this down. Just make it like 30 seconds. I don't need 2 full minutes of this in my murder mystery movie. Number 4, the school shooting, The Fallout. The Fallout is focused on the aftermath of a school shooting following survivor of the event, Varda. The film begins as just another regular day for this character, but eventually she finds herself trapped in the bathroom as her school comes under siege. While the sequence that follows is tasteful and non-graphic, it certainly doesn't shy away from the psychological horror of attempting to survive an active shooter scenario, especially one in a school. The Fallout's devastating opening, like I said, never devolves into exploitation territory, but it is still inherently difficult to watch from this perspective, especially considering just how very real this scenario is for a lot of people out there. Number 3, Shitfinger reveal, Spiderhead. Spiderhead is one of the year's biggest missed opportunities so far. The entire movie is kind of one big tonal car crash, and in a lot of ways it's really difficult to reconcile the extremely dark moments and content with the stuff that's just so out there and so wacky you can't believe what you're seeing. And this never felt more true than during a running gag throughout the film where an unknown person is smearing feces all over the walls of the titular compound, earning them the nickname, and there's no way to say this lightly, Shitfinger. The mystery of this person's identity is a running gag throughout the film, but we finally do get a big reveal towards the end. In the climax, when attempting to escape the facility, heroes Jeff and Lizzie are attacked by a fellow inmate called Sarah, whose hand is covered in, well, shit. Sarah, clearly Shitfinger, tries to smear her poo-encrusted hand all over Jeff's face while he's trying to flee. It's an act that leaves everyone at home thinking, who asked for this? Why has Netflix paid so much money for this film? They could pay for literally anything else. They could give us another season of Glow, but we get Shitfinger instead. What a depressing series of events. Number 2, Bella abuses Ava, Pleasure. Pleasure is certainly not a movie for the faint of heart, as it tells the story of a woman getting into the LA porn scene and the realities of all the drama within. We adopt the perspective of a young woman coming from Sweden to the USA working under the porn name Bella Cherry, who goes to LA in search of glitz and glam, but also faces the dangerous corners of the porn industry. The bulk of the film focuses on Bella's struggles navigating the high-pressure world of porn, and in the film's climax, her frustrations end up getting the better of her. That's because Bella eventually performs a scene with an up-and-coming porn actress and rival called Ava Rhodes, but Ava actually embarrasses Bella on the day by refusing to perform oral sex on her, proclaiming that Bella has a yeast infection. The scene is then changed so Bella is in charge, and after so many months of pent-up trauma working on the sets and the embarrassment she's just faced, she takes her anger out on Ava during this scene. It's incredibly uncomfortable to watch as Bella goes way past the lines of consent that were previously established. Now, the film is not lacking in intensity, as you can probably imagine, across the board. There are some scenes that are maybe even worse than this that we can't even talk about or show anything from here because they're that explicit. But still, this particular moment is incredibly hideous as Bella turns from a victim into the victimizer. Number 1, the birthing cycle, men. Men focuses on the recently bereaved Harper, who goes to a cottage getaway to try and ease her troubles, but realizes once she's there, all the men in the town have the exact same face, and that face is of actor Rory Kinnear. At the film's end, things take a sharp, disgusting turn when Harper is confronted by a naked man who's been repeatedly stalking her throughout the film, who is now bearing a resemblance to the folkloric figure, the Green Man, fittingly representing birth. Why fittingly? Well, you're gonna figure that out in a sec. At this moment, the man's stomach rapidly swells and he brutally gives birth to a young boy who Harper met earlier in the story. And the boy then repeats the act, giving birth to the village's vicar, before the vicar then births Harper's landlord Jeffrey, and finally, Jeffrey births Harper's dead husband James. Needless to say, director Alex Garland spares no detail as he moves in tight on each of these men giving birth in gory fashion. No recent movie scene has been as divisive as this one, with a lot of audience members singling it out as being the moment they completely turned the film off entirely, while others saw it as the crowning glory on this already excellent movie. Crowning glory, is that what people say? Crowning achievement, crowning tip of the hat, you know what I mean. Either way, it's incredibly prolonged and incredibly disturbing, and probably something you won't want to watch again. So that's our list. I want to know what you guys think down in the comments below. What did you think about these intense movie scenes? Could you sit through them? And are there any particularly noteworthy ones I missed off here? Let me know, and while you're down there, could you please give us a like, share, subscribe, and head over to whatculture.com for more lists and news like this every single day. Even if you don't though, I've been Josh, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you soon.